This is one of the most characteristic places in the history of the city of Sremska Mitrovica for the 18th and the 19th centuries, when this town was part of the military frontier zone of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And so the buildings all around, this is not a true square, it's a triangle. But this was called the Žitna Piazza or the Žitni Trg, which is hard to render in English. Maybe grain market is the best, as our colleague suggested, where the farmers brought their grain, and then it was taken from here down to the end of the street to barges on the Sava River, and was part of the economic base of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So that we have great examples of provincial Austro-Hungarian Baroque architecture around here. A lot of it is still being used the way it was used then. The commercial stores and shops are on the ground floor, and then the apartments of the owners are on the upper stories. And so a combination residential commercial area, which is still very well preserved. But in the 1960s, this was an open space in the middle, a park. And so the archaeologists excavated here, and they found the remains of a Roman industrial section where they were producing glass and ceramics. And that's what we're going to see next. This is a reconstruction of this space as the result of a grant from the Republic of Serbia Ministry of Culture, which was called Cities in Focus, Gradovi u Fokusu. And the parameters of the competition were that it would be a project which would incorporate the ancient cultural remains in a city into the modern life of the city. So this location is where every August there are cultural festivals that are held here out in the open. And so if we stop here for a minute, what we're looking at is on the left-hand side over here, the installation of amphitheater seating, which will hold about 500 people. They have a festival of oratory here, which is based on a sort of Latin model. People from all over the Balkans come to compete and give speeches. And so there will be a stage out in the middle here. And then what the Roman remains are that we're looking at here, and they're not finished yet because they won't look white at the end. But the buildings, first of all, if we go way over to the other wall, that's the only exposed section of city wall, city defensive wall in Sremska Mitrovica.
All the way down
All
there,
the way down there, the big heavy wall, which we still use the Turkish word bedem to describe. And then the buildings that you see the remains of here are the remains of warehouse and crafts buildings where they were making glass or making pottery. And then what is immediately in front of us is the only place in Sremska Mitrovica where we have an indication of standard Roman urbanism. We have a street with the stone pavement, and then you can see in the middle of the street the remains of the sewer, the canalization, and that will eventually be covered with a glass panel and lit from beneath with lighting indirectly. And then the bases that you see along the side of the street are the remains of a portico, an extended tram or porch that goes along both sides of the street. And this part here where the bricks are, they're going to follow. We did have to bury some of the ancient walls there to make this usable for presentations. There's an oratorical festival that's held here every August, an international festival. So they've outlined the walls that are buried beneath the ground in different colored bricks, so you can at least see the outlines, and will be all through this area, the outlines of the original building. See these wires that are sticking up? Those are the dimensions of the original Roman walls that are beneath the ground right now. So yes, this is not perfect presentation. We've had to bury some things again, but at least we're showing where the walls were, and they're buildings just like the ones that are being preserved visibly across the way. Another sort of chapter you had, or subheading you have to add to historic preservation, is that there's never an ideal world. You have to adapt yourself to the pragmatics of the situation you're dealing with. So we want this, and the Republic of Serbia wanted this to be a space that's used in the life of the city, but that integrates the old history of the city. And so we're doing two things at once, and we lose a little bit, but we gain a lot in essence. This was another open site which had grass growing in all these spaces. When the city workers cut the grass, they threw it in the Roman canal and created a 30-centimeter level of new humus inside the canal. So all this disappeared through time since the 1960s. So we're bringing it back to ancient life again and restoring it, but making it very accessible. You can go down the stairs, you can go walk over it. There's going to be a lot of indirect lighting. You can see the new light standards are around the edges here, which will give more lighting. And this fence will all disappear, so it'll be an open site. Grass will grow along the edges, and that'll be it. So the reason I saw it for the first time yesterday, but the reason why it's so exciting to me is the fact that it's modern and it's ancient. It's promoting and explaining the ancient and bringing it back to life, and not only for the citizens of Sremska Mitrovica, but because the festival that's held here is international, we're going to promulgate information about Roman Sirmium with really direct contact with the ancient remains here.